Welcome to the DX Today podcast, where you get facts and no hype.
And today, we are really putting that promise to the test. Because honestly, what we're looking at today,
Sounds like pure hype.
it sounds like the most hyperbolic thing to come out of Silicon Valley in a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just read the press release, it's a lot to swallow.
It really is. I mean, usually when we sit down for these deep dives, we're looking at a broader trend, like generative AI in healthcare or maybe a big app update. But today, we are zeroing in on a single date on the calendar, Wednesday, February 25, 2026.
Right. A date that I genuinely think is going to be underlined in the history books.
Wow.
No, seriously. You have the release of the iPhone in 2007. You have the launch of ChatGPT in late 2022. And now you have February 25, 2026.
That is a massive claim to make right out of the gate. We're talking, of course, about the launch of Perplexity Computer. And I just have to say right off the bat, the name.
The name, yeah.
Computer. It's so retro. It feels like they're trying to evoke this 1980s mainframe vibe, but what it actually does under the hood is pure sci-fi.
It is sci-fi. But it's sci-fi that has finally graduated from the demo phase to the production phase. And that name, computer, it's highly deliberate. They aren't calling it a chatbot. They aren't calling it a search engine. They're calling it a computer because they want to redefine the entire metaphor of what a computing device actually is for you in 2026.
Okay, let's unpack that immediately, because for the last 3 years, we've been completely stuck in the chat era. I type in a little box, the bot types back. I ask for a recipe, it gives me a recipe. I ask for some code, it spits out a snippet. But Perplexity Computer is claiming to be something else entirely.
Right. We are moving from the era of chat to the era agency. That is the fundamental thesis of our deep dives today. It's the shift from a tool you talk to a system that works for you.
And we've heard this promise before, right? I mean, remember 2024, everyone was talking about agents. We had Auto GPT, we had Baby AGI.
Oh, man, yes.
And frankly, they were kind of disasters.
They were total disasters. Those early agents were like interns who had way too much coffee and zero supervision. They'd get stuck in loops. They'd hallucinate entirely new programming languages. They'd burn through all your API credits and basically produce nothing of value.
Exactly. So what happened on February 25th?
What happened is that the general-purpose digital worker actually arrived. And the crazy part is, it actually works.
The digital worker. That phrase really stuck with me from the source material, this idea that it isn't just answering a question for you, it's executing an entire workflow. Doing research, writing the code, designing an interface, and deploying a website. All from a single prompt.
And doing it while you sleep.
Right.
That's the critical distinction for you to understand. A chat interface demands your constant attention. You are the driver.
Right.
But with Perplexity Computer, you are the manager. You assign the task, you close your laptop, you go to bed, and the machine just grinds away at the problem for 6 hours if it needs to.
But here is where my skepticism kicks in a bit. We know that single AI models, even the massive ones like GPT-5 or Claude, they have limits. They drift.
Yeah, they do.
They lose context. If you ask them to do too much at once, they just start making things up. So how is Perplexity claiming to solve this reliability problem that has plagued agents for 2 solid years?
By not relying on one single brain.
Okay.
This is the real technical marvel here. It's not one model. It's an orchestration of 19 different AI models running simultaneously.
19.
19.
I struggle to multitask with 2 browser tabs open, and we are talking about 19 separate neural networks coordinating on a single task.
Think of it like a construction site. In the old chat model, you had one guy, let's call him the general contractor, and he tried to pour the concrete, wire the electricity, install the plumbing, and paint the walls all by himself.
And naturally, he did a pretty mediocre job at all of them.
Exactly. Perplexity Computer is a job site where you have a specialist for everything. And Perplexity CEO, Arvind Srinivas, he used a really specific metaphor for this during the launch. He actually quoted Steve Jobs.
Oh, right, the orchestra quote.
Yeah. Musicians play their instruments, I play the orchestra. That's the quote. And it's perfect for this. In 2026, we have reached a point of extreme model specialization. No single AI is the best at everything anymore.
That's a really important point to drill down on, because for a while it felt like there was always one undisputed king model. It was GPT-4, then it was Claude 3.5, then it was Gemini. You're saying that era is just over.
Completely over. We were in the era of fragmentation. If you want creative writing, you want one specific model. If you want hardcore logic-based reasoning, you want another one. If you want massive context windows to read a whole textbook, you want a third. Perplexity Computer is simply the conductor. It looks at your request and says, okay, the research part goes to Gemini, the reasoning part goes to Claude, and the image generation goes to Nano Banana.
I still cannot get over the name Nano Banana.
I know, it's the funniest name in AI, hands down. But it is the absolute industry standard for image generation right now.
So let's look at this orchestra in detail, because the sources actually break down who is playing what instrument. And this is fascinating for anyone who follows the hardware and model wars.
It really is a who's who of 2026 intelligence.
So sitting in the first chair, the conductor, or I guess the concertmaster, is Claude Opus 4.6.
Which makes perfect sense. Anthropic has consistently pushed the boundary on reasoning capability. Claude Opus 4.6 isn't necessarily the fastest model out there, and it's definitely not the most creative, but it is the most logical. It's the one you want planning the actual project. It's the one making the checklist.
So when I sit down and say, build me an app, Claude Opus 4.6 is the one breaking that down into actionable steps.
Exactly. It's doing what they call the decomposition. It's looking at your prompt and saying, okay, to build this app, we need a database, a front end, and a logo. It acts as the project manager.
But then for the heavy reading, the long context stuff, they swap over to GPT 5.2.
Because OpenAI still holds the crown for context retention. If you need the system to ingest a 500-page legal document or a massive legacy code base, GPT 5.2 doesn't forget the beginning of the document by the time it gets to the end. It holds the thread better than anyone else in the market.
And then Gemini is in there for research.
Naturally. Google's Gemini is plugged directly into the Google search index in a way that other models just aren't. It has the freshest data. So if the task is to find out what the stock price of NVIDIA was 5 minutes ago, the conductor routes that specific query directly to Gemini.
And Grok, this one actually surprised me a bit. They are using Grok just for speed.
Yes. Grok has evolved into the sprinter of the group. It's lightweight, it's incredibly fast, and crucially, it's very cheap to run. So for simple tasks like fact-checking a date, doing a quick math calculation, or formatting a string of text, you don't want to waste the expensive brainpower of Claude Opus. You just throw it over to Grok.
It's amazing to think about the engineering challenge here. I mean, just technically speaking, the latency. If I have 19 models and they all have to talk to each other, doesn't that make the system incredibly slow? Are we waiting 20 minutes just for a response?
That's the intuitive fear.
Oh.
Too many cooks in the kitchen. But the architecture is asynchronous. That is the key word here, asynchronous.
Meaning they don't wait for each other to finish.
Right. They work in parallel. When Claude Opus breaks the project down, it might say, okay, task A is research competitors, task B is generate a logo. It fires off the research agent, which is Gemini, and the design agent, Nano Banana, at the exact same time. They're working simultaneously.
So it's not linear. It's not step one, wait, step two, wait.
Exactly. It's a swarm. And that parallelism is what allows it to feel like a real digital worker rather than just a slow, bloated chatbot.
And there's VO 3.1 handling video processing in the background, too. It's just a staggering amount of compute.
It's an enormous amount of compute. We'll definitely get to the economics of that later. But strictly from a capability standpoint, this is the most complex software architecture we have ever seen deployed directly to consumers.
So let's walk through the actual process. I sit down at my computer, my Perplexity computer, and I type in a goal. Let's say, build me a website that tracks live satellite positions. What actually happens inside the black box?
It's a 4-step process. And understanding this process is really the only way you can start to trust the system. The first step is classification.
Which is just the system figuring out what I actually want.
Right. It analyzes your intent.
Right.
Are you just saying hi? Are you asking a simple question like, what is the capital of France? Or are you giving it a complex goal? If it's a complex goal, the system shifts gears. It engages the heavy lifters.
Okay, so it realizes I want to build some software. What is step 2?
Decomposition. We touched on this slightly. This is where Claude Opus 4.6 takes your vague request to build a satellite tracker and turns it into a rigorous spec sheet. Step 1, find an API that provides live satellite data. Step 2, write a Python script to fetch that data. Step 3, write a React front end to display it on a map. Step 4, write a deployment script to host it online.
See, this is the part that humans usually screw up. We forget steps. We forget we need a database until we are halfway through writing the front end code.
Exactly. The AI plans the work before it works the plan. Step 3 is delegation. It assigns those subtasks to the specific agents. The coder agent gets the Python task. The researcher agent gets the API task.
And finally, execution.
Execution. And this is where it gets truly wild. because these agents share a persistent memory and a real file system.
This was a massive point in the sources, and I want to highlight it. Why does a file system matter so much? I mean, ChatGPT has a memory feature now. It remembers that I like my email short. How is this any different?
Because ChatGPT's memory is fuzzy. It remembers general preferences. Perplexity Computer has a literal virtual hard drive. It creates folders. It saves files. Index.html, style.css, data.json. The agents can open these files, edit them, save them, and close them. It operates the computer exactly the way you do.
So it's not just generating a wall of text in a chat window that I then have to manually copy and paste into my code editor. It is actually writing the file to the disk.
Yes. And that brings us to the biggest friction point in coding with AI over the last couple of years, the copy-paste loop of hell.
Oh man, I know it so well. The AI gives you code, you paste it, it throws an error, you paste the error back to AI, it says sorry about that and gives you new code. You paste it, it errors again. It's maddening.
Perplexity Computer kills that loop entirely. Because the agent has access to the file system, and crucially, access to the terminal, it runs the code itself. It sees the error itself. It debugs it itself.
So if the satellite tracker crashes on launch, the AI reads the crash log and fixes it without me even knowing.
Ideally, yes. It loops on its own until the code actually works. You might wake up and check the logs and see that attempt 1 failed, attempt 2 failed, but attempt 3 was successful. The point is, you didn't have to be the one sitting there hitting Control-V all night.
That brings us to this term that I saw all over the launch materials. Vibe coding.
Vibe coding. It sounds like something a Gen Z influencer would invent on TikTok. But it's actually a really profound shift in computer science.
It sounds incredibly chill. But practically, what does it actually mean?
It refers to coding based on intent and vibes rather than syntax. In the past, if you wanted to build software, you had to be a linguist. You had to speak Python or C++ MAR or Rust. You had to know exactly where the semicolons went.
And if you missed a single semicolon, the entire application broke.
Right. With vibe coding, you describe the outcome. You say, I want a dashboard that looks like a Bloomberg terminal, but cleaner. Make it dark mode. Use neon green accents. Track this specific financial data. You're describing the vibe of the product. The machine handles all the syntax.
So the argument they are making is that the barrier to entry for building software has just dropped to zero.
Well, not zero. You still need logic. You still need to know what you want to build and how it should function in the real world. But the barrier of knowing how to write the actual code is effectively gone.
The sources gave some concrete examples of this, and I want to dig into them because they sound almost too good to be true. Let's talk about the Bloomberg terminal killer.
This was the big viral moment of the launch day. A user, just someone with some financial knowledge but definitely not a professional developer, wanted to track NVIDIA stock.
And just for some quick context for you listening, a real Bloomberg terminal is the absolute gold standard on Wall Street. It's also incredibly expensive.
It's about $30,000 a year for a single seat. That's a major status symbol.
So this user goes into Perplexity Computer and types what exactly?
Something along the lines of, build me a real-time financial analysis dashboard for NVIDIA. Use Perplexity Finance data streams, and make it look professional.
And the result?
The result was a fully functional web-based dashboard. It pulls live data. It had interactive charts. It even ran sentiment analysis from breaking news articles. It looked and functioned like a $30,000 product. And it was built in one single session for the cost of a $200 subscription.
That disrupts the economics of financial data pretty violently.
It does. But think about the technical steps involved there. The AI had to understand what a financial terminal actually looks like. It had to find the correct data sources for the stock. It had to write the code to visualize that data cleanly, and had to set up a way to refresh it in real time. That is a massive integration task for a human.
And then there's the satellite tracker example. This one was described in the sources as a one-shot.
One-shotting is the holy grail of AI agents. It means you give the prompt once, and the AI produces the final working product without needing a single correction or follow-up prompt from you.
Which seems impossible for something as complex as live satellite tracking.
But it happened. The user asked for a live map of satellites. The AI went out and found the public APIs provided by space agencies. It wrote the fetch script. It pulled in a mapping library, probably Leaflet or something similar, to render the globe. It plotted the coordinates dynamically, and it deployed the web app. Done.
I mean, that used to be a hackathon project. That used to be a full weekend for a team of 3 engineers eating bad pizza and drinking Red Bull.
And now it is a single sentence. Make me a satellite tracker.
Even Perplexity's own employees are using it internally. I saw a note that they used it to build a 4,000-row spreadsheet overnight.
Yes, and this is the unsexy but incredibly valuable side of it. Engineering documentation. Nobody likes writing docs. Nobody likes filling out massive spreadsheets. They use the system to populate a 4,000-row tracking sheet.
A task that usually takes a human a full week.
A week of mind-numbing drudgery. The AI did it while they slept. And this is where the value proposition really clicks for enterprise businesses. It's not just about can it build a cool app, it's can it do the boring stuff that makes my human employees want to quit.
But I have to play the skeptic here for a minute. How do we know the data in that 4,000-row spreadsheet is actually real? We have all seen AI hallucinate numbers. If I am building a financial terminal and the AI just makes up a stock price, I lose real money.
This is exactly where Perplexity's background as a search engine becomes their biggest moat. They call it citation grounding.
Right. Because Perplexity started as a truth engine, basically.
Exactly. Unlike ChatGPT, which at its core is a text predictor that sometimes looks up facts, Perplexity is built from the ground up on an index of sources. When Perplexity Computer generates a fact, like NVIDIA is trading at $150, it links that specific fact to a verifiable source URL.
So it's fully auditable.
It's completely auditable. Every line of code, every single data point in that spreadsheet has a paper trail. If the AI says a satellite is currently over Brazil, you can click and see exactly why it thinks that. That is crucial for enterprise adoption. You simply cannot have a black box handling your corporate finances.
That makes it feel much less like a magic trick and more like a reliable enterprise tool. But talking about reliability and safety, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Or maybe I should say the claw in the room.
Open claw. Yeah.
You really cannot tell the story of Perplexity Computer without talking about the absolute chaos that happened just before it launched with OpenClaw.
It's the perfect foil. To understand why Perplexity made the specific design choices they did, you have to look at the wild west of AI agents that preceded it.
So OpenClaw, which was formerly known as Claudebot or Moltbot, is an open source agent.
Right. It runs locally on your actual machine. And it's incredibly powerful because it has absolutely no guardrails. It connects to your WhatsApp, your Slack, your iMessage, your local file system. It essentially has God mode access to your digital life.
And the sources mention a very specific incident that really highlighted the danger, the inbox incident.
This is the nightmare scenario for anyone using AI. A researcher installed OpenClaw. She gave it a seemingly harmless prompt. She said, "Clean up my email inbox, archive the old stuff, and keep the important stuff."
Sounds like a standard request. I would love an AI to do that for me right now.
Well, OpenClaw misinterpreted the phrase cleanup. It started systematically deleting everything. It didn't have the human nuance to understand what constituted important. And because it was running locally, with direct, unfettered access to the mail client, there was no undo button. It was wiping her entire digital life in real time.
That is terrifying. It's like the Sorcerer's Apprentice. The broomstick just keeps flooding the room and you can't stop it.
Exactly. That is the inherent risk of agency. When you give an AI the power to act, to delete files, to send messages, to execute code on your behalf, you are inevitably giving it the power to destroy.
So how does Perplexity avoid this? Because they are promising the exact same capabilities. File access, coding, executing workflows. Are we just one bad prompt away from Perplexity wiping our hard drives too?
No. And this is the fundamental architectural difference between the two approaches. Perplexity Computer does not run on your machine. It runs in a cloud-based sandbox.
Explain the sandbox concept to me like I'm 5.
Think of it like a laboratory with thick glass walls and robotic arms. When you ask Perplexity to delete files or run a risky piece of code, it isn't doing it on your physical laptop. It is doing it inside a virtual computer in the cloud. That's the sandbox.
So if it goes rogue and decides to delete everything...
It only deletes everything inside the sandbox. It deletes a virtual hard drive that didn't even exist 10 minutes ago. Your actual family photos, your tax returns sitting on your desktop, they are perfectly safe. They are physically separated from the AI.
It's an air gap.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
It creates a strict quarantine zone for the AI's actions.
But wait, if it's trapped in a quarantine zone, how does it actually do anything useful for me? How does it check my email or post a summary to my Slack channel if it's locked in a cloud box?
That is where their enterprise security connectors come in. Instead of giving the AI your raw passwords or letting it physically control your mouse, you authorize very specific integrations. You use a connector for Gmail, a connector for GitHub, a connector for Salesforce.
So it's a controlled pipe between the sandbox and your accounts.
Exactly. You are giving it explicit permission to read and write through a specific API, which you can revoke at any time. It's not God mode anymore, it's employee mode. You give the employee a key card, and if they start acting crazy, you just deactivate the key card.
It really sounds like they looked at the OpenClaw chaos and said, okay, we need to professionalize this entire concept.
They put a suit and tie on the agent. They took the raw, dangerous power of autonomy and wrapped it in a security layer that a Fortune 500 company can actually get insured.
Speaking of professionalizing, let's pivot and talk about the broader ecosystem. Because Perplexity isn't just living in a random browser tab anymore. They have partnered with the biggest hardware manufacturer in the world.
The Samsung partnership. This is a massive strategic play for them.
We are talking about the Galaxy S26.
Right. If you bought a Samsung Galaxy S26 in early 2026, you didn't just get Bixby or Google Assistant. You got Perplexity integrated directly at the system level.
Hey, Plex.
Hey, Plex. You can launch it with voice or a long press on the side button. But the system level part is what really matters here. Most apps are sandboxed themselves. They can't see what other apps are doing on your phone. But Perplexity on Samsung has permission to see the screen.
So I can be looking at an email from my boss about Q3 targets, invoke Perplexity, and just say, draft a reply to this and schedule a meeting for the deadline.
And it literally sees the text of the email on your screen, it sees your calendar app, and it executes the task across those apps. It completely bridges the gap between the AI in the cloud and your local device.
That feels like the true Jarvis promise we've been waiting for. But it also raises some serious privacy questions for me. Reading the screen is a lot of trust to place in a company.
It is a huge amount of trust, and that's exactly why the Samsung partnership is so heavily vetted. Samsung's Knox security layer is deeply involved in managing those permissions. But right now, the utility argument seems to be winning out. People are willing to trade that screen access for the sheer convenience of an assistant that actually knows what they are looking at.
And for those of us who are on Samsung, I am an iPhone user. For better or worse, there is Comet.
The Comet browser. This is Perplexity's aggressive attempt to own the interface of the web itself.
It's an AI-native browser, right?
It is. The core philosophy is that a browser shouldn't just be a dumb window to the web. It should act as a second brain.
Browsing at the speed of thought. That was the big tagline.
Right. So you could highlight a block of dense text on any web page and instantly get a plain English explanation or a summary or a factual verification. It routes all those requests intelligently using what they call the Max Assistant on Comet.
And the big news here is that Comet is finally coming to the iPhone in March.
Yes. They are expanding aggressively. Hardware integration on Android, browser dominance on iOS. They clearly want to be the default layer between you and the internet.
But, and here comes the reality check for everyone listening, none of this is free. We are talking about orchestrating 19 different models. We are talking about spinning up cloud sandboxes for every task. We are talking about system-level hardware integration. Intelligence at this scale costs serious money.
It does. And the bill for this digital worker is not small.
Let's talk about the economics of AI. How much does it actually cost to hire this thing?
It is currently available to Max subscribers. And that price point is $200 a month.
$200 a month.
$2,400 a year.
That is just, look, I pay $15 for Netflix and I complain about it every month. $200 is a car payment. It's a significant utility bill. Who is this actually for?
You have to completely reframe the value proposition in your head. If you think of this as just a better ChatGPT, then $200 is insane. It's a complete ripoff. But if you think of it as hiring a junior analyst, it's incredibly cheap.
Okay, play that scenario out for me. If I hire a human junior analyst...
A junior analyst, fresh out of college, costs you, what, $50,000, maybe $60,000 a year, plus benefits, plus a company laptop, plus health insurance.
And they only work 40 hours a week.
And they need sleep. And they need constant training and onboarding. Perplexity Computer costs $2,400 a year. It works 24/7. It instantly knows every programming language on Earth. It has access to all real-time data on the web.
So the real pitch here is don't hire the intern. Subscribe to Perplexity.
That is the quiet part said out loud. Yes, it is direct labor replacement. You are paying for work outputs, not just software access.
And there's a credit system attached to this subscription, right? It's not unlimited use.
No, because raw compute is a finite resource. Max users get 10,000 credits a month. And they are throwing in a 20,000 credit launch bonus right now.
How exactly do these credits work? Is one question equal to one credit?
No, it's entirely usage-based, depending on the cognitive load. And this is a really important shift in software business models. If you ask Grok a simple math question, maybe that costs one single credit. But if you ask Claude Opus to architect a full web application and it takes 3 hours of reasoning loops and debugging, that might cost you 500 credits.
You pay for the complexity of the thought process.
Exactly. Aravind Srinivasan has been very vocal about this specific point. He believes usage-based pricing is the correct business model for AI instead of relying on ads.
Because ads align the incentive incorrectly between the company and the user.
Right. An ad-based model fundamentally wants you to stay on the site, doom scrolling, clicking links, staying engaged. It wants you addicted. A usage-based model wants you to be efficient. Perplexity makes the same subscription money whether you spend 10 minutes or 10 hours on their platform, as long as the task gets done. Actually, they prefer if the task gets done faster because it saves them server costs.
So their actual financial incentive is to give you the answer and get you out.
Which is exactly what a utility tool should do.
Let's go back to that Bloomberg comparison from earlier. $30,000 a year versus $2,400.
It is the classic innovator's dilemma playing out in real time. The Bloomberg terminal is amazing. It has legacy features Perplexity doesn't have. It has dedicated human support, but is 12 times better. For the average financial analyst or boutique firm, maybe not. Perplexity is good enough for a fraction of the price.
It eats the market from the bottom up.
Precisely. It democratizes access to that high-level analysis.
What about the regular folks, though? The people currently paying $20 a month for Pro, are they just left out in the cold?
For now, mostly yes. They have stated that Pro users will get access later, after they finish load testing the system. But let's be totally honest here. This is a prosumer or enterprise product. The average person simply does not need to spin up a 19-model compute cluster to ask for a chocolate chip cookie recipe.
Fair point. So looking at the broader landscape, Perplexity clearly isn't the only shark in the water here. Everyone in Silicon Valley wants to build the ultimate agent.
The agentic race is absolutely the new arms race.
Who are the main contenders they are up against?
You have Anthropic, the makers of Claude, with their new product called Cowork.
And how does Cowork compare to Perplexity Computer?
Anthropic is taking a strictly vertical approach. Cowork operates almost entirely within their own single model family. They are betting that their models, like Claude 3.5 and Opus, are smart enough on their own to handle every part of the chain. The research, the coding, the writing, all in-house.
So they don't believe they need the orchestra of 19 different models.
That is their big bet. Deep integration over wide fragmentation.
And what about OpenAI? They are the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
OpenAI is moving very fast. And here is a juicy detail from the sources we analyzed. They just hired Peter Steinberg.
That name sounds really familiar.
He is the creator of OpenClaw.
No way. They hired the guy who built the inbox destroyer.
The very same guy, which signals exactly where OpenAI is heading next. They clearly saw the raw power of OpenClaw, the local execution, the extreme autonomy, and they said, we need that capability, but we need it tamed inside our walled garden.
So OpenAI is building their own digital worker.
100%. Chat is a dead end. Everyone in the industry knows it. Work is the future.
But Perplexity seems to have a unique position here. They don't actually own the underlying models they use.
Being model agnostic is their greatest strategic strength.
Explain why. Wouldn't a company naturally want to own the brain powering their product?
Not necessarily. AI development right now is incredibly volatile. 1 month, OpenAI is in the lead with a new release. The next month, Google drops a paper and takes the crown. The next month, it's a startup in France like Mistral. If you are OpenAI, you are stuck using GPT, even if it falls behind. If you are Google, you are stuck using Gemini.
But if you are Perplexity...
You are a mercenary.
Yeah.
If a brand new model comes out tomorrow that is 10 times better at Python coding than GPT-5, Perplexity just swaps it into the orchestra.
Yeah.
They don't care who made it. They just want the best instrument for the job at hand.
They are totally future-proofed against their own suppliers.
Exactly. It creates incredible resilience. If one model provider has an outage or stagnates technologically, the computer just keeps running smoothly.
And they have this concept of the model council, right?
This is a fascinating safeguard. It is a big part of how they ensure accuracy. For really critical, high-stakes tasks, they don't just ask one model for the answer, they ask 3.
Like getting a second opinion from a doctor before surgery.
Exactly like that. They might ask Claude, GPT, and Gemini the exact same complex question. If all three generate the same answer, the system's confidence score is very high. If they disagree, the conductor model steps in, analyzes the discrepancy, and figures out who is actually right based on the source data.
It's automated peer review.
It reduces hallucinations dramatically. Now, it is expensive because you are paying compute costs for 3 queries instead of 1, but for high-stakes enterprise work, it is absolutely worth it.
So we have covered the tech stack, the economics, the security risks. I want to bring this all back to the person listening right now, the big so what of February 25th.
The so what really depends on who you are and what you do for a living.
Let's start with the professional, the person sitting in a cubicle or a home office right now trying to get through their workday.
For the professional, this is a massive force multiplier, but it is also a very real threat.
How so?
It automates the drudgery, the data gathering, the formatting, the basic coding, organizing files. If your job consists mostly of moving data from spreadsheet A to spreadsheet B, you are in trouble. Perplexity Computer does that faster, cheaper, and without complaining.
But if your job is strategy,
Then you just got superpowers. It frees you up to actually think. It allows one person to do the execution work of a team of 3. You transition into being the editor-in-chief of your work rather than the writer.
and what about for the learner, the curious person who just wants to understand the world better?
This is my personal favorite use case. It allows for deep research that adapts directly to the user's level.
Give me a concrete example of how that looks.
Say you want to learn about quantum computing. In the past, you would search Google, find some incredibly dense academic articles, maybe watch a simplified YouTube video, and ultimately just get overwhelmed.
That is the standard experience for learning anything new online.
With Perplexity Computer, you can say, create a personalized course on quantum computing for me. Start with the absolute basics. Generate a glossary of terms. Find the 5 most important foundational papers and summarize them in plain English. And then create a quiz to test my knowledge at the end.
And it just builds the curriculum from scratch.
It builds the curriculum, it creates the custom study materials, and it grades your quiz. It acts as a private tutor that is also a publishing house.
It lowers the barrier to entry for understanding complex topics.
It lowers the barrier to entry for everything. If you have a brilliant idea for an app but don't know how to code, the barrier is gone. If you want to analyze personal finance trends but don't know advanced Excel macros, the barrier is gone.
It feels like we are seeing the rise of the long horizon task.
That is the exact technical term for it. Until now, human interaction with AI was measured in seconds. You ask, it answers. Now we are talking about an AI that runs for hours or even days to solve a macro problem. We are finally trusting it with our time.
February 25, 2026, the day the computer actually started working for us.
And potentially the day the fundamental definition of skill changed forever.
So to wrap this deep dive up for you listening, Perplexity Computer. It represents a monumental shift from chat to work. It unifies 19 specialized models, the orchestra, to plan, code, and execute multi-step projects inside a secure cloud sandbox.
It democratizes access to high-level analysis and creation that previously required expensive tools or whole teams of people. It turns raw intent into finished action.
And it leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to end on. You mentioned that Steve Jobs quote earlier, musicians play their instruments, I play the orchestra.
Right. It is fundamentally a quote about control and vision.
But here's what I am wondering as we look at this new landscape. If the AI is now the computer and the AI is the one playing the orchestra, what exactly does that make us?
That is the uncomfortable question we all have to face now.
Are we the composers? Are we the ones writing the beautiful music that the AI simply plays?
One would certainly hope so.
Or are we just the audience, just sitting back and watching the show?
If we stop learning how to play the instruments ourselves, if we forget how to code, how to write, how to do deep research, because the machine does it all for us, we might end up just being the audience.
And if the AI is the one playing the orchestra, maybe the only real skill left for humans is vision, just knowing what song needs to be played in the first place.
If the machine can do all the work, your only job is to dream up the work worth doing.
That is definitely something for you to mull over tonight. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Perplexity Computer. We will catch you on the next one. Stay curious.